Hey guys, welcome back to Distance Learning. Today we're going to be going over week 3, day 2. Just like the last 2 weeks, I'm going to read you the directions, and then we're going to reread and annotate the text, and then at the end we'll go back and answer the questions from day 1. Day 2, reading closely by annotating the text. Objective. Today, you will reread and annotate the text titled Jane Goodall and Sustainable Fishing. Directions. Reread Jane Goodall and Sustainable Fishing. Use the annotation key below to mark up each text. During reading, be sure to look for evidence that supports you in answering the questions you created on day 1. Look for evidence in each text that will help you answer the focus question for the week. And here goes the first question. It says, how can humans be helpful to animals? Again, a lot of information. All they're really asking us to do is to reread, annotate the text, and then answer the questions that we have from day 1 at the end. Let's look at the annotation key really quickly. We know this already. We've done it before. Underline major points. Circle keywords or phrases that we do not know. I just want to clarify that sometimes I might have something circled that you do know, and if I have something circled that you know, you don't have to circle it. It's okay. I'm just using this as an example, as a guide. You're really just focusing on things that you don't know that you want to circle, okay? And lastly, we're going to think about adding a margin note in the form of a question or a statement somewhere on the side or below the text. Let's scroll back up to the text now. Okay. Sustainable fishing. Sustainable fishing guarantees there will be populations of ocean and freshwater wildlife in the future. People have fished for thousands of years, yet unless big changes are made, they may not fish much longer. Many kinds of fish are in danger of disappearing. New ways of fishing are shrinking fish populations. Fishers take billions of pounds of fish from the sea each year. Scientists say many kinds of fish will soon be wiped out. Once they are gone, they will never come back. There is a way to stop this from happening. Fishers need to start using sustainable fishing practices. Sustainable fishing is a way of fishing responsibly. It kills fewer fish. It also gives populations a chance to grow back. So I underlined the first 2 sentences, which are the major points of this paragraph. It says people have fished for thousands of years, yet unless big changes are made, they may not fish much longer. This lets me know that fish are in trouble in our oceans, and unless we do something, we may encounter big problems in the future. I also circled sustainable fishing practices. Again, you may know what this is from our read from yesterday, but if you don't, this is a key phrase that we need to understand in order to understand the entire text, right? And although it gives us a clue to what it is in the next few sentences, it doesn't really define it yet. We'll learn the definition as we keep reading the text for this one. I have a margin note. It says some fish may become extinct if humans do not change the way we fish. Oops, I made a mistake there. The way we fish. This kind of summarizes what I read in this previous paragraph. That's what I use my margin note here as a clarifying statement. Let's read paragraph 2. The world's fish are in serious danger. Look at the bluefin tuna, for example. Many people like how it tastes. Because of that, it has been very heavily fished. Today, there are many fewer bluefin tuna than there were in 1970. Fishers catch bluefin tuna in 2 harmful ways. One is purse seining, the other is long lining. Purse seine fishing uses a large net. First, the net is used to herd fish together. Then, it closes around them. This net scoops up many fish at a time. Long lining uses a very long fishing line that is dragged by a boat. The lines can be up to 100 kilometers, 62 miles long. They have thousands of hooks. Bits of food on the hooks attract fish. Pursing and longlining catch thousands of fish at a time. They also catch many fish that fishers were not trying to catch. Such fish are called bycatch. Birds and sea turtles can also be trapped by accident. So here I have 3 sentences that I thought captured the main idea of this paragraph. The first one being the world's fish are in serious danger. That really captures everything, but the next 2 sentences that I underlined tell me exactly how and why they are in danger. That is because of the purse seine fishing and the long lining fishing. So I also underlined these 2 sentences here somewhat in the middle of the paragraph. And again, I have a clarifying statement at the bottom. It says purse seine and long line fishing are dangerous because they catch thousands of fish. Again, this kind of like summarizes everything that I read in the previous paragraph. Sustainable fishing practices. It is possible to fish sustainably. In some parts of the world, people have been doing it for thousands of years. Today, we can learn much from these old ways of fishing. The Tabagnu people of the Philippines are one example. They have been fishing sustainably for many years. The Tabagnus fish for particular kinds of fish only during certain times of the year. The rest of the year, the fish are left alone. That gives their population time to grow larger again. The Tabagnus also set aside certain areas as protected spots. Fishing is never allowed in these areas. When they do fish, the Tabagnus catch only a small number of fish. They only take what they need to feed themselves and their communities. They mostly use hook and line fishing. So here, again, I found in the beginning of the paragraph most of the key points that I needed for the rest of it. So the first 2 sentences read, it is possible to fish sustainably. In some parts of the world, people have been doing it for thousands of years. For the most part, everything that you read after that is giving you an example of how people are able to fish sustainably. So that kind of captures everything that I need to know. I did have one more thing underlined. It says they only take what they need to feed themselves and their communities. Again, that's really just an example of sustainable fishing. So I kind of capture that in the first few sentences of the paragraph again. And what we found from this week and last week, I hope, is that in most paragraphs, that topic sentence, like how we write a topic sentence when we're writing our own essays, really does give us the main idea from most paragraphs. Not always, but most of the time. Okay, guys, let's go to the next paragraph. It says, if you have ever fished, you probably used a rod and reel. Rod and reel fishing is a newer form of hook and line fishing. It is much more sustainable than long lining. Only one fish is caught at a time, instead of thousands. There is also much less bycatch. If you hook something you weren't planning to catch, you can put it back in the water right away. Another way we can all help is by no longer eating fish. Ocean scientist Sylvia Earle has stopped eating fish. She believes we need to take a break from eating seafood. Fish populations need a chance to grow larger again, she says. I personally have stopped eating fish, Earle says. I know too much. I know that every fish counts. Fish are very important to the health of our oceans, Earle says. In turn, the oceans make the planet work. Of course, many of us want to keep eating fish. If we do, we should choose seafood that was fished sustainably. Fish in our ocean are just too important not to care. So here in this paragraph, there are many examples of what sustainable fishing could look like. So your underlines could look very different than mine, but as an example, This sentence here says rod and reel fishing is a newer form of hook and line fishing. It is much more sustainable than long lining. That's just an example of sustainable fishing or how we can help our oceans. Another way that the scientist Sylvia Earle suggested is that we just either stop eating fish or we only eat fish that was sustainably fished. I hate to keep using that word, fished, but okay, sustainably fished. These are just other examples of how we can help our oceans. So again, for this paragraph, your underlines may look very different than mine. It's okay as long as you captured the main ideas here. I do have two things that I've circled, that being rod and reel fishing and hook and line fishing. If you've been fishing before, you might know what a fishing line and hook look like. That's kind of what it's referring to. If you need further clarification, what I want you to do is extra credit. I want you to go ahead and hop on Google with your parents' permission and check out what rod and reel fishing is, okay, with your parents' permission. Let's see if I missed anything. No, okay. So I have one clarifying statement here that I had. It says everyone must do their part to stop overfishing. That's just a thought that I had as I read. It's something that it's not directly stated in this paragraph, but it's something that I gathered just from the information that I read. It's now time for the second text. During the second text, I'm going to be giving you less, I guess I'm going to say guidance, but because I really want you to do it on your own, but I will stop and give you some hints or some clues about things you could underline or circle after each paragraph, or sometimes after 2 or 3 paragraphs, okay? If you find that I'm moving too fast, please feel free to pause the video and underline, circle, margin note, and then continue after you're done. This text is called Jane Goodall. Jane Goodall is a very famous primatologist. She is a scientist who studies a group of mammals called primates. Primates are a group of mammals that include humans, monkeys, gorillas, and chimpanzees. Jane Goodall has spent her whole life studying chimpanzees. She has focused on studying animal behavior in chimpanzees. Her discoveries have made her one of the best known scientists in the world. Okay guys, I'm going to stop for about 10 seconds. Please go ahead and underline the key points. Circle any words that you may not understand, that you don't know, and add a margin note in the form of a question or a statement somewhere beneath the text. I should say beneath the paragraph. All right, so major points here, of course, is that Jane Goodall is a very famous primatologist. The first sentence, to give some more detail to go along with that, you may also want to underline Jane Goodall has spent her whole life studying chimpanzees, or her discoveries have made her one of the best known scientists in the world. If there is a term that you may not understand, it may be primatologist, but they do give us an explanation for what that is, so that may not be something we want to underline. I should say circle. Other than that, I don't see anything else that we want to circle here. If you want to add a margin at the bottom, again, that's going to be based on what you think about what you've read so far. I'll leave it to you if you want to write a question or a statement in the margin note. Goodall was born in 1934 in London, England. When she was a little girl, her father gave her a toy chimpanzee. It looked so real that people who visited our house were afraid of it, but she loved it. When Goodall was 23, she went to Africa. She began studying chimpanzees with a well-known scientist named Louis Leakey. After a year of working in Africa, Goodall went back to England and studied at the University of Cambridge. Can you guess what her favorite subject was? Chimpanzees. After finishing school, Goodall returned to Africa and spent the next 45 years studying chimpanzees in the wild. Her discoveries during these years completely changed the way I'm sorry, yeah, the way people think about primates. So I did these three paragraphs together because they're all fairly short and they all have the same main idea. I'll let you go ahead and underline perhaps one or two sentences that you think captures the main idea of these three paragraphs. Again, yours can look completely different than mine. Maybe you want to underline one thing, three things. Maybe you'll circle one thing, three things. It's up to your judgment based on what you understand so far. So I'll give you 10 seconds to do it, and then I'll move on. So there are several things that capture the ideas in these paragraphs. It's mostly about how she began her work of working with primates, okay? So you could underline, she began studying chimpanzees with a well-known scientist named Louis Leakey. You could also underline, sorry, I went a little bit too far. After finishing school, Goodall returned to Africa and spent the next 45 years studying chimpanzees in the wild. And I'm sure there are a few other sentences you could capture as well. I'll leave it up to your judgment. I didn't see anything that I didn't know in terms of a word I didn't understand, so I didn't find anything that I wanted to circle. But, you know, it's based on the words that you know, not the words that Mr. A knows. So if you found a word to circle, that's okay. Yours can look totally different than mine. It's perfectly fine. We're going to keep moving, guys. We're actually almost done. We have a few more paragraphs, and then we'll go ahead and answer those questions at the beginning of the text. Before Goodall's work, people thought chimpanzees were herbivores. She discovered that they eat meat too. More importantly, Goodall discovered that chimps were quite intelligent. She observed them making and using tools. Before that, people thought humans were the only animals that made and used tools. Go ahead and circle, underline, or write a margin note for this paragraph. So this paragraph is mostly about what Goodall discovered about chimpanzees. And there are two things that she discovered. One is that, in this paragraph at least, one is that they eat meat, and the other one is that they were intelligent and used tools. Okay, so those might have been something that I underlined out of this paragraph. When you hear the word tool, you may think of a hammer, saw, or shovel. Chimps don't use those kinds of tools. A tool is something used to help make a job easier. Tools can be very simple. A rock becomes a tool if you pick it up and use it to crack open a walnut. Go ahead and circle, underline, and write a margin note for this paragraph, guys. I'll give you 10 more seconds. So in this paragraph, we learned that chimps use tools, but not the type of tools that we may think of. So to kind of capture this idea, you could underline the first two sentences. When you hear the word tool, you may think of a hammer, saw, or shovel. Chimps don't use those kinds of tools. Again, it's subjective, so you might also want to underline, instead of those first two, you could just underline the second and third sentence being chimps don't use those kind of tools. A tool is something that used to make a job easier. I'll leave it to your discretion as the learners, the intelligent learners that you are. Let's keep moving. We're going to the next page. Goodall observed chimps using blades of grass and sticks as tools. Chimps like to eat termites, a type of insect that is like an ant. Termites live in holes underground. To catch these tasty insects, Goodall observed chimps sticking a blade of grass into a termite hole. The termites crawled onto the grass. Then the chimp took the grass out of the hole and ate all the termites. Before Goodall wrote about this behavior, people did not realize how clever chimps and other primates are. Go ahead and circle, underline, or write a margin note here. So for this one, the first sentence really does capture what the rest of the paragraph is about. Is that chimps use blades of grass or sticks as tools. The rest of the paragraph just describes how they use the grass to catch and eat termites. Goodall gave names to all the chimps in the group she was studying. She got to know them pretty well. Over time, she learned that chimps were very smart animals. She learned that chimps express many of the same feelings as people. They can feel happy, sad, and mad. Chimps can also be mean. Goodall saw them attack and eat small monkeys, not out of hunger, but because they didn't want them around. Again, guys, go ahead, stop, underline, circle, write a margin note for this paragraph. So this was mostly about how chimps are very similar to humans. The sentence that captures that the best is that she learned that chimps express many of the same feelings as people. Feel free to underline and keep going to the next sentence, which says they can feel happy, sad, and mad. Or don't, your decision. Let's go to the final paragraph, and then we'll go back up to the top. Goodall is more than a scientist. She is also an activist. An activist is someone who works hard to solve a problem and change something in the world. Goodall works as an animal rights activist to protect chimpanzees and their habitats. She tells others about human damage to habitats, such as hunting and pollution, and works to stop these problems. She loves working with young people and teaching them how to protect animals. She has written many books and has been the subject of many books and movies. She has won many awards for her work in protecting chimpanzees. All right, guys, go ahead, circle, underline, or write a margin note for this paragraph. Give you about 10 more seconds. Okay, guys, so the most important thing here is that she also works as an animal activist. To capture that, probably I would have underlined the first two sentences being Goodall is more than a scientist. She is also an animal activist. Everything after that kind of explains to you either what an animal activist is or what they do. All right? Great job so far, guys. We're going back up to the top to look at our questions from day one. And remember, just like our lesson today, if you don't have exactly what I have, it's okay. It is based on, in this case, what we want to know about the subject. Now, if you want to use my questions, you can, but you certainly do not have to. I have 4 questions. My Q1 question is, how can humans help animals in forests and other ecosystems? So we learned that humans can change the way we fish for, I shouldn't repeat myself, I shouldn't say fish for fish, that doesn't make sense. I'll just say we've learned that we can change the way humans fish. My question 2 was, what can humans discover about animals in natural habitats? We learned that Goodall discovered that chimpanzees are very similar to humans. In fact, I'm sure that as we learned through our readings in class as well, there are many animals that are very similar to humans that we learned about. So what I'm going to say here is that we can learn that many animals are similar to humans. Okay, my question 3 says, how can humans help animals in marine ecosystems? This is very similar to the first question. We mostly focus on helping animals in marine ecosystems, that being fish. So I'm going to write a very similar answer. So I'm going to say that humans can practice sustainable fishing. Okay. My Q4 says, how do humans depend on animals and habitats? Just like we learned last week as well as this week, we're reiterating that humans depend on animals and habitats for food. That's one of the major things we get from habitats and from animals and habitats. So I'm going to say humans depend on animals for food. All right, guys. So with that, we are done. Remember, again, you're answering your own questions that you asked from day one. If you want to use my questions and answer the questions with me, that's cool. I'll look forward to seeing you again for distance learning next week. Everyone, be safe, and I hope to see everyone back in school as soon as possible.